world itself has become more lonely. Loneliness is ever so common with the rise of social media, and the way we don't know how to control our usage on the internet is becoming an issue. Some of it's due to the fact that as growing up, we never had people to monitor and guide us with the technology we have nowadays. And I'd like to talk to you about how we could reduce the need of feeling lonely. Loneliness comes from the fact that we crave belonging with people. It's becoming more present that we substituted this need with social media, and all these companies know it too, so you could profit for their company. But I know you probably don't really care, and maybe you're on your way to a job you don't like, same boring 9 to 5, getting yelled by a boss that you don't like, being with people that don't really value what you do. But what if we could change that? We all know that being lonely is not a fun emotion to go through because sometimes we have those times as people when we don't even know we are lonely and cancel plans due to the nature of what could go wrong and social awkwardness. Stress itself is a huge factor that contributes to loneliness because this emotion releases cortisol into the body and activates your flight or fight mode, causing you to overthink many situations that don't make sense logically. The internet has changed so many people's lives nowadays. You could be your own boss, have flexible hours, and talk to a camera, being the star of your own show. Just thinking of the fact that we don't really have to be in person due to the fact that the pandemic really changed all of this is absurd. We could go to spaces on Twitter or Discord and talk to people anywhere and have all the fun highlights of what your life could look like on an iPhone. But no kidding, how isn't this hard on the mental health of the person consuming this type of content? I think in many ways that the changes society has made in the last 10 years is staggering. In this decade, we had so many unprecedented growth, and it's almost like it's incomprehensible. What I'd really want to talk about is the fact that with all these advancements, we substituted methods like going out to the park with jumping on a call. Some aren't as bad as others, but it's just different than what other older people had to go through. I think prioritizing face-to-face interaction is so much better because you get to understand the whole picture on what is going on rather than just seeing a part of what's going on. So the whole idea of loneliness only applies to millennials and Gen Z, probably doesn't apply to boomers. This whole concept of loneliness is going to get worse and worse as we people don't understand how to control the consequences of the substituted needs we people created. As a person, I think it's insightful that giving knowledge of how loneliness is becoming more apparent is necessary. If you're still watching the video, you could probably relate to all the things I'm going to say, but don't you find it strange how the quality of life has gotten so much better, but everyone is still struggling with loneliness and mental health due to the nature that people don't know what their intent is doing? For the most part, everyone struggles with a set series of problems, and this could be from not having a stable financial future or not having realistic goals. So overall, the ways you could reduce or minimize the effects of loneliness is that we put a lot of pressure on the people who are lonely, and we act as if it's a solo mission, but it's a team effort because both parties need to receive and build upon the relationships. Yes, I think it's really apparent that people are becoming more lonely from social media, so let's make it less of a problem for future generations. Let's say, for example, you saw that your younger siblings were secretly dealing with loneliness. They are with friends who they don't really like but have to be with because without them, it wouldn't be the same. I think our siblings and future generations are really going to have to struggle with the idea of collaboration and communication because it's almost as we are struggling to communicate to people, and this is really apparent with Gen Z talking to other generations. They have this problem that we have to fix with immediate action. With that is understanding how this generation uses tech and reflects on everyone else. Some of us don't even know how to talk to our own parents, and just think about that for a second. We filter our speech depending on the person we are talking to. This generation is being heavily affected by big algorithms like every social media platform ever. So it's really important that we understand that the content they watch on the platforms is how our siblings are going to be like. We need to teach them that content creators are teachers for whatever they are doing. And this could be from podcast, coding, talking about related topics to whatever that person is following. It could be really nice to have a genuine connection with people rather than having them scroll for hours and watch meaningless content and see people like this for hours and hours upon end. Look, I know you probably don't really know what you're doing, just scrolling, consuming random content on the internet for a quick dopamine hit, but what if you just applied some knowledge that I told you, and that is be the older sibling and teach them about loneliness so we could create a more connected society for our younger generations?